Our course is about teamwork, but still, in the end of the day, I'm supposed to grade everyone individually, right? So which means that I have to fairly grade individual contribution to the teamwork, right? So then let me assure you that I'm going to do everything that I can to ensure fair grading of individual contribution to the teamwork, right? So first of all, there will be peer evaluation. So peer evaluation goes like this. So every one of you is going to evaluate relative contributions of all the team members. But these are only relative contributions. So it means that you cannot, I don't know, give 10 to everyone, 10 out of 10 to everyone, or 1 out of 10 to everyone, or you cannot give some 10 out of 10, someone 10 out of 10. It just doesn't make sense, right? So there is no such thing as something out of 10 or something out of 100, right? So what you report in the Dsp evaluation is that one student's contribution is, say 10 times or 2 times, or I don't know, 0.7 times more than another student's contribution, right? So what you report is relative contributions. And then you're going to write a short story about everyone in your team, including yourself, to justify these numbers. Yeah, you're going to evaluate your own contribution too, but your own contribution, I mean, if you give yourself a higher score, it does not really affect your final score, because when we look at relative contributions, then we discount. I mean, we do not look at your own assessment of your own contribution, right? So but you will get a little bonus if you evaluate yourself correctly, right? So in other words, so if you evaluate yourself too highly, you will not get a high score. But if you evaluate yourself precisely, then you will get a slightly higher score. Right? So there is a little bonus for precision. Anyway, the important thing is that every numeric score should be justified by writing a short story or a textual review. And the content of this review should be this. There should be 3 parts. So, and these are, by the way, so these are parts that very widely used in annual performance reviews in the real work. So I did not invent anything new here. So it's contribution of the team member who is being evaluated, and the strength of the team member who is being evaluated, and suggestions for improvement. So there are 3 parts. And then we are going to read these reviews, and 10% of your project score comes from doing these reviews. So you will notice that the scores for all the rubrics, they add up to 90. So this is because 10% is for these reviews. So, and among these 10%, half of this is given to you by the course instructor. So it is for how well your reviews follow this model: contribution, strength, and suggestions for improvement. And another 5% is for how consistent the numeric scores that you enter with the team's opinion. So this is to ensure things like, if say there are 2 friends, I don't know, or a boyfriend and a girlfriend in a team, and they may want to give unfairly, unjustified, too high scores to each other. And well, of course, when we read these reviews, we'll probably notice it. But in case we do not notice, that's another kind of way to discourage this, because if you give unfairly high scores to each other, then by doing that, what you will get is that your opinion is not going to be consistent with the team opinion, right? And then you will kind of get a smaller score under this 10%. Well, now the output of this peer evaluation is kind of your estimated, is your contribution to the team effort as compared to the average workload of a student, right? So if say the output of the peer evaluation is say 1.15, it means that your perceived contribution is 15% more than the average. So roughly speaking, It means that the fair way, the absolutely fair way to grade you is going to be the team score times 1.15, and this is going to be your individual score. So another thing that we have is that every team is supposed to have a research log. Usually this is an informal research log. It's just communication via WhatsApp where you distribute the workload, where you, I don't know, arrange meetings and so on and so forth. In all the years that I've been teaching teamwork, 2 or 3 teams decided to do a more formal shared online document, so it looked like a real research log. But most of the time, it's just a WhatsApp chat. I don't want you to, pay too much attention to it. So it's just that if it is a WhatsApp chat, if hypothetically we can read your WhatsApp chat and figure out who is responsible for which part of the work and see conflicts and stuff like that, then it's good enough. Right? Then if you are not happy with your project score, with your peer evaluation, right? So if you are not happy with the score that the instructor gives to you according to the rubric, then you can just talk to the instructor, right? So, but then if you're not happy with the score that you get from your peers with the peer evaluation, so it means that you say, I don't know, most of the time, if say you believe that you did 50% more than the average, but your teammates say that you only did 20% more than the average, and then you're not happy. Then you can appeal to the course instructor, and the course instructor will then try to re-examine all the evidence and regrade your work. Now, this is why it is important to give access to a research log to the course instructor, because that is information. This is the base for us to be able to re-evaluate your work. So if we do not have access to your team's log, which is usually a WhatsApp chat, it means that we just don't have enough information to do this, and most likely we are not going to do this unless you give us access to your WhatsApp chat in advance. So, but then if we do have access to your WhatsApp chat, then if we can really read it and we can carefully evaluate your contribution to the teamwork, and then if we see that the score that you get from your peers is indeed not fair, then we're going to regrade your team. So we are going to override all the scores from peer grading with our own scores. Well, so in the end, the instructor is going to grade your project according to the rubrics. So the rubrics, if you click it, the rubrics will be there. But the important thing is that the score according to the rubric is a certain number out of 100. Yeah? And then suppose that your contribution according to peer evaluation is P. So P is a number close to 1. So it can be less than 1, which means that your team sees your contribution as below the average, or more than 1, which means that the team sees your contribution as above the average, but it is close to 1. I mean, it's going to be 1.10, 1.1, or 1.3, maybe 0.7. So this is the formula for your final score. So it looks a bit complicated. So let me explain. So first of all, this is the Kronecker delta. So it means that if your score is 0, if your peer score is 0, then no matter what the rubrics are, your individual score becomes 0, which automatically means that you fail the course. Okay? So if you don't do anything at all for the project, then you fail the course, which is reasonable because our course is on doing a team project. So if you don't do it, you do not meet the objectives. All right. So if your score for peer evaluation is even slightly more than 0, even if you do 5% of the average workload, then you probably are not going to fail. Well, you may still fail, but yeah, I don't know. So most likely not. So then delta of 0p becomes just 1. So then this factor disappears. So the next thing that I should explain is this minimum. So this is because if your score, so it may happen that, say, your rubric score is, say, I don't know, 80, and suppose that your peer evaluation score is 1.7 or 2, is very high, right? So then if you multiply the two, then it means that you get more than 100, but you cannot get more than 100. So then it's going to be trimmed down to exactly 100. This is important. Because in the past I had some students who did not realize this, and they were really unhappy. So they believed that if they do, I don't know, the whole project or the bulk of the project single-handedly, then that they should get like more than the maximum for the project, and then automatically it means A plus in the course. No, it does not work like that. So you are supposed to work as a team. So which means that if you, I don't know, if you just do everything single-handedly, then you just, I don't know, you just waste your time. Okay, so it's not going to bring you a higher score. So, and then this means that um, half of your final score is just the team score, and half is the team score multiplied by your individual peer evaluation score. So this is kind of to encourage more of teamwork. But at the same time, notice that if your individual score is very low, is close to zero, but still not zero, then your individual project score is going to be close to half of the team score. So this is to ensure that students who are not really interested in doing the project, they just want to help and pass the course. So it is possible to give them some a little work to do, say, I don't know, review the final report, and then they will still pass the course. Okay. So remember that in the end, this is 50% of the entire course mark, and the rest of the course mark comes from the quiz and the midterm test. So I hope this clarifies the scope of the project, and I wish you good and fruitful and enjoyable work on the project. Thank you for your attention.